You know, it used to be that there was a conceptual bottom of the barrel when it came to media and politics, but lately these days, it's not even clear that there is a conceptual bottom to the barrel. It seems to be a black hole of absolute negativity in the mainstream media political world. Viva Frei on location. I have exactly 10 minutes to do this vlog because the kids and my wife are preparing dinner, but I am the master chef when we are camping, and we're camping. All right, the big news. Discouraging, depressing, distressing. Lindsey Graham apparently is experiencing flu-like symptoms after having tested positive for COVID despite being double vaccinated. Politics being a cutthroat, merciless, soulless, and black hole, bottomless cesspool. What happens? Apparently the Democratic strategist out of Rhode Island, her name is Kate Coyne McCoy, tweets something which she subsequently quickly deleted. Is it wrong to hope that he dies? Asking for a friend. And hashtag something with Lindsey Graham. Swiftly deleted. As if one can delete such a lapse of judgment, such a morally reprehensible tweet. But the fact that she deleted the tweet and then said how she regretted the tweet, okay, fine. Par for the course when it comes to getting caught with your hands in the cookie jar, where even your base, who you thought you were appealing to, think that it might have been a bad idea. Par for the course. Yeah, bad judgment, yada, yada, yada. The fact that anyone would have such a reflexive thought in the first place is, I can't think of a better word, it's sick. And this is the world in which we are living. We are living in a world of sick politics, sick partisan politics, and I'm not trying to spread the blame on both sides. These types of death-wishing tweets, when it comes to the political realm, tend to come from one side in my observation. Now, on both ends of the political sphere when it comes to the people, you'll find poor behavior on both sides. But when it comes to politics, when it comes to politicians, these types of ill-wishing tweets seem to come from the blue checkmark crowd in a variety of contexts proven time and time again over the last 2 years. Asking for a friend, is it wrong to hope he dies? This illustrates not just a sick soul, but the partisan politics that comes into exploiting tragedy. Lindsey Graham tests positive despite being double vaccinated. Incidentally, wishing ill on Lindsey Graham as though he represents something of what people criticize as being the vaccine hesitant side of the political spectrum, it's probably the wrong person to pick on, given the fact that he, to his credit to some and to his critique to others, he's been pro-vaccine from the very beginning and apparently got the vaccine as of December. So to take him as an example to wish death on your political adversaries, probably not the best one because he has not been a vocal critic of vaccines from the get-go. Setting that aside, we are living in a world where politicians are weaponizing illness. They are weaponizing victimhood. They are weaponizing when something goes wrong for their political adversaries and ignoring it when it happens to them. Because Lindsey Graham testing positive, he's not the first politician in recent days to test positive. Some of those Democrats who fled Texas to boycott a vote on a piece of policy that they didn't like, posing maskless on an airplane, subsequently coming down with COVID, you don't see their allies asking for a friend if it's wrong that they wish they should die. First of all, that thought in and of itself, it's a bad thought. And even if anyone has that reflexive thought, even as a joke, check it. Because there's an old saying, hashtag confession through projection. I've got another one, truth in jest. People often make these sick types of jokes, but it's oftentimes because it reflects something of their underlying hidden desire. But it's not just politicians who want to exploit illness of their adversaries and ignore it, when it happens to themselves. Ignore the tragedy when it strikes themselves, but exploit it when it happens to their political adversaries. It's the mainstream media that does this in a callous and absolutely shameless way. A recent example, guy named Mike Freedy out of Hawaii, I think, who, father of 5 kids, goes on vacation, to Hawaii. He worked at he worked in Vegas, I forget at which hotel. Goes to Hawaii for a vacation. He and his family get wicked sunburnt. Upon his return to Vegas, he's so badly sunburnt, he goes to the ER because of a skin rash. According to the articles, and there is a bit of lack of information in all of these articles that are being reported, he goes to the hospital with an extreme skin rash because of this extreme sunburn. The articles say he tests positive for COVID. He goes home and then subsequently is admitted to hospital with pneumonia in both lungs, and he passes away. An anomaly story like this, why would it make the news from every outlet across the board? Well, apparently in his final moments, he tweeted to his wife, "I should have gotten the damn vaccine." We don't know exactly what happened. We don't know what would have been had he gotten the vaccine. We don't really know exactly what he died of, because quite literally the articles say, admitted to hospital with a massive skin rash, tests positive for COVID, goes home, and then readmitted to hospital with pneumonia in both lungs. But why does the mainstream media run with this? Why do they exploit this tragedy? An anomaly of a tragedy, because it fits the narrative that they are trying to put forward. And look, the debate is one that can be had, and I'm not taking a side on this debate one way or the other. I've said it publicly before, the vaccination question is a fundamentally personal question. You should check with your doctors, and you should make whatever decision is recommended by your doctors. But when it comes to politicians exploiting the illness of their adversaries, when it comes to the media exploiting the tragedy of strangers, making it mainstream media because it pushes the narrative that they want to push, it is callous, and it's the era in which we live. And this is the irony of all of this. Way back in the early days of the pandemic, I tweeted this, and it didn't age well because it's not the way it's going to happen, and I appreciate it now. I said, one day when this is over, we're going to come out of this light at the end of the tunnel. We're going to breathe a fresh air when we're liberated, and we're going to look back on this with awe. You can't breathe a breath of fresh air when you're slowly being suffocated over an extended period of time, which is what this has turned into. When it was 2 weeks to flatten the curve, I thought after 2 weeks, after a month, we'd be liberated. We would go hug friends and family. It's been 2 years. And what happens oftentimes, it's sort of like with nutrition, malnutrition and starvation. When someone gets starved and they're sufficiently malnourished, you can't slap a 16-ounce rib steak and potatoes in front of their face and expect them to eat it. The body will reject the nutrients. The body will reject that food. It's the same type of thing that's going on in a spiritual way with this 1 to 2 years of lockdown, social isolation, social distancing. People have not craved interaction more. They have gotten conditioned to not know how to deal with interaction, to the point where once it's offered to them, it's like throwing a plate full of food in front of someone's face who could not digest it if that person ate it. And it's the pandemic, isolation has exacerbated this problem, and social media started well before. Social media, the irony is that it has taken the human out of human interaction, and people look to social media and think that they're not tweeting or interacting with a human. And this was long before the pandemic. But then the pandemic comes and everyone's isolated, socially distanced, and only conversing, not just with friends and family and loved ones through social media, but the rest of the world. And you end up being conditioned to view the rest of the world as though it is an extension of social media. And it turns people into callous people because they no longer appreciate that they are having a human interaction, but on a digital scale. They just view it as a digital interaction with some 0 and 1 on the other end of the spectrum, on the other end of the world, or their political adversaries, where they can say whatever they want so long as it gets a couple of clicks from their base. It's not the way things should be. And with the political environment in which we're living, there's nobody really who's making a concerted effort to step back from this abyss into which everyone is staring and into which certain politicians are pushing us from behind. How's it going to happen? I don't know how it happens. It takes politicians to actually take a step back and realize that at the end of the day, we are pretty much all the same. Even on the most thorniest of issues, I think most of us would be very surprised to realize how much we all agree in principle. It's just the extreme parts that we don't agree on. And people have been conditioned to treat human interactions, especially in the pandemic, as social media interactions. And it has made people demonize anyone who they think thinks differently from them, because people have stopped having that on-the-ground interaction with humans. I've been on the road now for nearly a week and a half. I have been talking to people left, right, and center. And incidentally, New Brunswick has now lifted its face mask mandate. And you can see how quickly people can lose the conditioning that they've been accustomed to for a year now. And you can see how courage and how freedom is contagious once people start feeling like it's okay to spread the virus of freedom and courage. But I've been on the road for 2 weeks. I've been talking to people. I see the degree to which when you sit down with people, you don't make the stupid, sassy quips that you've been conditioned to make on social media because it doesn't fly in person. You act the way people act on social media in person, you're going to have no friends, and rightly so. And I think I may be even guilty of this myself from time to time. I reflect and I try not to do things that I regret or say things that I regret or act in a way that I don't think is becoming of who I actually am. But when you get on the ground and you talk to people, you see, on the one hand, we can agree on a lot more things than we think we agree upon. And you also realize everyone is an individual with their aspirations, their dreams, their fears. Everyone is a human to some extent, where in the realm of social media and politics, it's tribalism, allies or foes. And we think we can do whatever we want to foes, and we think we can forgive whatever we want to forgive in allies. And it's not the way it should be, and it has to end. And at some point, there has to be a concerted wave of humanity to take over the social medias, and people need to get back to the streets, back to talking to people face to face, so you can see the look of humanity in the eyes of other humans. All right, with that said, rant over. I think I see people who are staring at me if in this wonderful tent in which they are cooking, and I'm going to go now and finish up with my masterful camping spaghetti and meat sauce. I'm going to get something to drink, relax, and I don't know. With that said, if you like my videos, you like my content, you know how to share, subscribe, hit the notification bells. Support links are in the pinned comment. Robert Barnes and I do weekly live streams every Sunday, weekly streams with a guest every Wednesday. You can also support Robert Barnes and myself on Locals, vivabarneslaw.locals.com. But more important than any of that, take care of yourselves, check in on friends and family, make sure everyone around you, oh my God, I just got bitten by some bugs, is doing well. And remember, humanity goes a long way. Peace.